Hey, this is Pastor Curry, pastor of the Zion Fair Baptist Church, Wilmington's most exciting church, the church that love ya and anything you can do about it. Today with Coffee with Curry, we're going to do something different. We have had an opportunity to interview several persons who will be running for political office in the year of 2024, upon which we are now in. This season is getting ready to get very busy with so many politicians who will be running for various offices. Today, I want to just remind you of the four who we've had an opportunity to sit and chat with. Now, while I have not had an opportunity to sit and chat with Velda Jones-Potter, there was an interview that she did on the Coffee with Curry and interviewed by one of our good friends. I want to share that with you as well. But before I reintroduce all of them to you, let me just take a moment to remind everyone that one of our stars, one of our brilliant minds of the 21st century, Reverend Dr. Twin B. Brown, is now hospitalized. I want to keep him in prayer. I want you to keep him in prayer. Listen, the Bible says that the prayers of the righteous availeth much. You who understand the worth and the value of prayer, pray for him. And this is what I want to make sure I also share with you as a pastor, that God knows what he's doing. God knows our season. God knows when to receive. Our prayer is that he is comfortable. Our prayer is that the will of the Lord be done and that comfort is extended to those who need comfort if the Lord decide to receive him into his kingdom. I don't believe that death is a punishment. I'm one of those individuals who believe that death is a reward. We want to euthanize and don't like to use that word, but the truth of the matter is this: man that is born of a woman is of a few days, and those days are full of trouble. I want you to be comforted and praying for him and his family that God will continue to let his will be done. Twin have been and is one of the stars as it relates to the media field. He brought TV to Wilmington. He did the radio, he did the TV, he showed many of us how to do it. My show wouldn't be what it is today without the guidance and the direction of Brother Twin B. Brown. I know they're writing a book for him and we're going to bring her on the show very shortly, but I wanted to just take a moment to ask the Wilmington family, please, let's pray for Brother Reverend Dr. Twin B. Brown and his family, that the Lord's will be done. And whatever the Lord decide, whether to receive him into his presence or if the Lord decide to allow him to continue to be with us, the whole goal is that we are allowing the will of the Lord to be done. We're praying for him. We want you to pray. Remember, as I said at the beginning, the prayers of the righteous availeth much. Today, we are now preparing ourselves for several interviews. You're going to get the best of these clips, and I hope that you enjoy it. We're getting ready to have this season of people running. They're going to be putting signs in front of your houses for those of you who want them. They will be certainly be asking you to give them their votes. I grabbed some clips real quickly, and I wanted you to see some of the people that we have interviewed. We are scheduling people now so that they can be a part of our show, that you can hear from them and be able to dialogue with them as we are preparing for the year of 2024 election. Listen, it's needed. We need new leadership. We need strong leadership. We need leadership that is representative to what we believe, the values and the morals that we have. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I pray God will continue to bless you real good.
Good morning, Delaware and surrounding areas. You are now tuned in to this week's Coffee with Curry. Join us every Sunday at 11 a.m. with new guests every week. So grab your cup of coffee and join us on Coffee with Curry. In the heart of Delaware, where the Brandywine River meets the Atlantic, lies a city rich in history, diversity, and untapped potential. Wilmington. Today we invite you on a journey through the vibrant tapestry of this community, guided by the voices who aspire to lead and shape its future. Join us as we bring together the perspectives of 4 remarkable individuals who have stepped forward to share their visions for Wilmington. Through candid conversations, these political guests have opened up about their personal journeys, their commitment to service, and the changes they aspire to bring to our beloved city. This is not just politics. This is a collective call for change, a promise for a better Wilmington. Each of these guests have a unique story to tell, and as we weave their narratives together, we discover the common thread that binds them in a shared pursuit, the well-being and prosperity of every Delaware resident. Wilmington is not just a city, it's a community. It's about the people who live, work, and dream here. As we delve into the essence of their proposed policies and aspirations, we invite you to witness the potential impact on the very fabric of our community. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and engaged. This is Voices of Change, Wilmington Politics Unveiled. Let's step into the world of these political leaders and explore the possibilities that lie ahead for Wilmington, Delaware.
Hey, this is Pastor Curry, pastor of the Eugene Fair Baptist Church, Wilmington's most exciting church, the church that love ya and anything you can do about it. Today with Coffee with Curry, I'm excited. I'm excited because we're getting the opportunity to hear something really special today. We have invited Miss Velda Potter, and we have none other than our own county exec, Matt Meyer, our brother Marcus Henry, who will be our guest today. Today, I'm honored to have Brother Eugene Young with me today, who's running for United States Congress. So why don't you call somebody real quickly? Tell them Coffee with Curry is on, and let's get after it.
I'm a native of Wilmington. This is home for me all my life. Since we were 2 years old, I moved here with my family from West Virginia. My parents were both hailed from West Virginia. And I grew up in our communities, East Side, Riverside, East Lawn Avenue. And I'm just a product of a village that included people who cared about the children in the neighborhood. The product of public schools where teachers knew every student, oftentimes knew your parent in some way or another, and played as much a role in, I'll say, molding who we were as individuals as they did in our academics. And so I'm someone who understands the value of that and the impact that had on me and my opportunities that I have had over the years. The opportunity to go to college, to get a degree in engineering, a field that had really literally no women and no real people of color in that field. At a university where there hadn't been any African American women receive a degree in engineering prior to my doing so. And I just understand the path that put me on for, for my family now, my husband, our 2 sons, for our family and for our future. And it's always been important to me that door that was open for me, that I open it even wider for other people. And so that's the spirit that sort of led me to transition from a career in the corporate world. I worked for DuPont for 17 years before getting real direct exposure to and involvement in public service with Mayor Sills as Director of Finance. And I think it was that just sort of sparked that part of me that cares about what happens to other people. And since then, that's just been where my heart and where my passion has been, to try to help make life better for others.
In terms of my journey to public service, I grew up here in Wilmington. I'm a Delawarean at heart. I remember my first experience down here in Southbridge was in high school. Our last 4 weeks, we could kind of do whatever we want, any project, and I joined with Habitat for Humanity.
Okay.
And I was building homes, literally putting nails in floorboards. That's when I learned every 12 inches, you got to put a nail on a floorboard. Building homes with Habitat for Humanity. And it's incredible, this city, it's a big city, right? We got big, tall buildings, but it's very diverse, but it's also a small place. What the former governor called it a state of neighbors, and we're definitely a city of neighbors. I then went away to college, law school, worked in New York for a bit, a big law firm, had an opportunity to go to Iraq. I was a diplomat in Iraq, and I was embedded with 10,000 soldiers. And it was very interesting, diverse as you can imagine, 10,000 soldiers. You had PhDs there from Ivy League schools, and you have kids who didn't get their GED till they were 30, 35, all working side by side for the country in Iraq. But we had one rule when we were there, one rule more important than any other, and that is everybody had to get back to base. Every American had to get back to base. We all once we left the military base, and we did it 3 or 4 times a week into Iraq, we had to make sure everybody got home safe. And it was shocking to me 2 years later, right down the street here, I ended up a 6th and 7th grade math teacher at a public school, Prestige Academy.
Right, I remember that.
And I felt like we didn't have the same rule right here in Little Wilmington. We didn't have the same rule that we all take care of each other. And so it was important to me in my classroom, in my school, and then when I ran for county executive, that most importantly is we look to every corner of this city, of this county, and now this state. Find someone who's being left out, left behind, not taken care of. Might be financially, might be physically, might be mentally, emotionally. They might have all the money in the world, but they feel left out. Let's bring everybody in and let's create a government that's truly of us, for us, and by us.
Yeah.
I am born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware, proudly. My father, John Henry, my mother, obviously Margaret Rose Henry, raised us in North Wilmington. And I have to say, they gave my brother John and I a comfortable childhood. We had resources, we went to private schools, we had the things any middle-class American enjoys having. But one of the things that my mother in particular stressed with me, and my father to a certain extent, is the giving back to the community, staying involved in the community, talking to people with respect, regardless of where they come from.
Right.
And it's kind of been instilled with me and my brother John, but it's carried me through my life and obviously in my career future with public service.
My family has been in Wilmington. My great-grandmother, great-grandfather moved to Wilmington in 1919.
Oh, wow.
Lived on the corner of 12th and Orange. That's where they first started out. He was 24, she was 19 at the time. And then they moved over 11th Street Bridge. I'm the product of Diane Young, who it's my maternal side that moved here. Initially, my father, Eugene Young Sr., was originally born and raised in Chester, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So I have big family from Chester, Philadelphia area, but they've moved out into different areas. What's interesting is the trajectory of my parents. Come from working class, humble beginnings. My mother was a teacher. My mother, I believe, was the first woman in our family to go to college.
Okay.
And so my mother went to Delaware State, ended up coming back home into Wilmington, taught in Red Clay School District for 30 years.
Excellent.
My father, what's interesting is my grandmother, my father's mother, passed away when my dad was only 4 years old. And so my father didn't have as much a relationship with his father, but his aunt took my father in. So my father lived with my great aunt until he was 18 years old. And once, it's oftentimes said that, the elder would say, like, look, you got until you're 18. Then once you turn 18, you got to go. I love you, but you got to go. Okay. And so my father ended up doing some work here and there, but then he ended up going into the Air Force, and this is what changed his life. So he went in the Air Force, came back, became a machinist at Boeing, and was in the Air Force Reserves and at Boeing. So they raised me and my sister over on the East Side. And it was a beautiful, beautiful neighborhood. It really shaped in like the core of me and who I am, and allowed me to go out and do a lot of great work. Now I have my own family. I'm married up, as all of us smart men, I like to say we do. My wife I met my wife in college. I went to University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
Okay.
My wife went to Towson State University. And
so you have HBCU.
Yeah, I'm half.
Your mom and your wife.
Yeah, indeed. So my wife and I have known each other for years. We ended up getting married in 2014. And we have 2 children, 8 and 5, my daughter Madison and my son Mason. My wife is actually a college professor.
Whoa.
So my wife went from Towson to Fairleigh Dickinson University in Northern Jersey, and then went to UConn to get her PhD. Okay. And so she's.
Oh, you married up.
I did. I'm not by no. I'm not. I am being very clear.
Yeah.
And so she's a professor at Franklin Marshall College, in their business school, focused on issues around workforce development, organizational structure, hiring. How do you hire people that may have a background that may be just as involved, or re-entering back into society, how to properly hire, how to properly engage, things of that nature. So I'm incredibly thankful. Yeah. One thing as I recognize as we age is that we recognize how precious life is. And with that recognition, it makes you have such a greater appreciation for my son, my daughter, my wife, my family, extended family, recognizing that life is precious. So you take every moment as it is precious for the people that you care so much about.
Yeah. Now what high school did you go to?
So I grew up on the East Side. I actually went to St. Mark's High School.
Okay.
I went to St. Mark's, played basketball there.
So your height has some issue here. Okay, so you played basketball. I was waiting for that.
Yeah, I played basketball. So I and it's interesting. St. Mark's was such a wonderful opportunity to learn about hard work. I had amazing coaches there. It was a great opportunity to connect with a variety of people because it's outside. It's all the way out Kirkwood Highway. So you meet a whole new different group of people at St. Mark's, and it was good for me. I have lifelong friends from there. But it taught me a lot. But it was interesting, I would catch the bus from off of 5th and Lombard. Okay. And most of my friends would be going to different schools, Glasgow, Christiana, and they would see me standing there with my jacket. And I remember my friend first day of school going to her bus stop saying, "Where are you going to work?" And I was like, "No, this is what we got to wear to school." But it was such an amazing experience. I'm incredibly thankful for it.
And how was your basketball career?
It was good. So I was a late bloomer. In many cases. So when I was in 9th grade, I was 6 foot. And when I left high school, I was around 6'7". The height I am now, 6'7", 6'8". Okay. And so I was, they call us like these late bloomers because, your mind will say like, "Hey, feet, you need to start moving," but it takes a little bit more time to get down to your feet and start going. But I was pretty good in high school. Ended up getting a college scholarship to play basketball at Division I level, and I'm thankful for that. And I was able to go to UMBC, and I double majored in information systems, sociology, and came back home and linked up with like a brother of mine, Logan Herring, and his older brother, and we created a nonprofit organization for children using basketball as kind of like the catalyst to get people involved. And how do we work on a lot of young people, provide them the supports they need, things of that nature. Our thing was, we didn't know too much of what to do other than basketball. So we said, we're going to coach them like people coached us and change our lives. And we did that, and we were able to work with a lot of young people in their school, with their households, things of that nature. And it showed like what's going on within our community, and also how you got to provide that exceptional service as you move forward if you really want to impact change.
We'll be right back.
at 9 a.m. on Facebook Live every Sunday by typing Zion Fair Baptist Church.
That Jesus felt what you're feeling, but he did not sin. Am I in the word? Have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin.
We are Wilmington's most exciting church.
Delaware State University is not only an anchor HBCU in the state and across the nation, but is redefining the HBCU mission for today's world.
We are committed to long-term, consistent, and responsible growth.
Do you have the app? Yes, I do.
I am pleased to be able to award the HBCU Sports Production Grant to Delaware State University.
And like so many of our brother and sister HBCU institutions across the country, offering one of the highest returns on investment in higher education.
Building the whole student, enhancing operational effectiveness, and improving the physical plan.
We're just hoping that her legacy will be a catalyst for change.
We are unafraid to be the people we are called to be.
Delaware State University rises in rankings.
Securing a healthy future. Our clarion call remains the same.
Becoming the most substantively diverse, contemporary, and unapologetic HBCU in the country.
I am so proud, so proud.
We are Delaware State University.
This is how we do it. It's Friday night, and I feel alright. The party's here on the west side.
Hi, this is Melody Hubert from Melodic Movements Performing Arts Program Incorporated, where our mission is to provide affordable and quality dance instruction and to teach our dancers a sense of purpose and appreciation for the arts. We would love to have you to join our dance family. For more information, please visit our website at melodicmovements.org or give us a call at 302-543-5257. We can't wait to meet you.
Hello, my name is Eugene Young. I'm incredibly thankful to be here. I am a candidate for U.S. Congress, and I believe when it comes to Congress, it comes to service. One of my favorite lines about service is you can't lead without loving, you can't save without service. So what's the depth of your love, or what's the quality of your service? So this aspect of love and service is what brings me here before you today, and wanting to take that and extend that into Congress as we move forward. I look at my last 20 years of serving the community, and I look forward to having another 20 and being able to find more ways to even better serve the community, which has given me so much. So please feel free to join us at eugeneyoung.com. That's EUGENEYOUNG.com. That's eugeneyoung.com. If you're interested in volunteering or donating, it could be $5 a month, it could be $100 a month, it could just be a standard donation of $10. We appreciate it all. Thank you so very much, and wishing you a wonderful, beautiful day.
Matt, you have done so many wonderful things. What gives you that burning to be such a public servant that you are? Because there are public servants who do just get the job done, but there's a zeal, a zest, a energy that you have in trying to really serve people. Where does that come from?
Doc, I know a lot of what you do is teach. Yeah. But a lot of what you do in your life is teach. And I think you know, as I know, that when you consider all the things you can do in your career, right? You think about all the things you can do in your career. Nothing is as satisfying as taking someone and helping them to learn something, helping them to fend for themselves, helping them to go off and giving them confidence to go off and make it in the world. So I think I found along my journey that sure, I could go practice law and help a client. I could go off in Iraq and do diplomatic stuff, or I could come right here at home and help on the front lines. Yeah. There's no feeling like it. And so I think people look at me and they look at you certainly and look at all the work you do for others. I look at myself and see myself, it makes me happy. Good. There's no joy. Yeah. There's no joy like the joy of buying a hotel, 192 room Sheraton Hotel, one of the biggest hotels in our state, and turning it into the largest and most comprehensive housing for vulnerable people in our state's history. There's nothing in my professional life as satisfying as that.
And you gave that to a group of people who needed it the most. How did that all go down for you, with you?
Well, it starts with principle. I know the way you run your church and your community is similar, that you don't just give a seat at the table to the well-heeled, to the wealthiest, to those who pay for their seat. You got to look around in our jobs. You got to look around for those who are vulnerable and left out, who maybe aren't speaking out, who either don't have the confidence or don't even have the transportation to get to the office to make a point. And so we went out and we sought out vulnerable populations. We knew prior to COVID even hitting that there was a major shortage of housing for vulnerable people. The YMCA traditionally has been a source of housing. There was the Rick Van Story Center in Wilmington that had closed. So, and the YMCA decided to scale down. So suddenly, where are these people going to go? And then COVID hits and there's nowhere for them to go. Right. And so that was an opportunity for us to create this new facility that's addressing a long-term problem. I should add that it's people think it's a place for homeless. You think of someone who's panhandling on the street, it's a place for them, which is true. But it's also a place for people not far from here whose homes were flooded by Hurricane Ida. Right. It's a place for people fleeing Ukraine and Afghanistan who need a place to stay for a couple nights or a couple weeks or a couple months before they find a permanent, stable place.
It was also a place for people, even on Adams Avenue, who had found themselves in a bad situation, and you were able to house some of them over there. It's a safe haven. Yeah, especially for the vulnerable and those who really need it. And you will always be a credit. People often say, "What will be the legacy of individuals?" And when I was asked that question concerning you, the question is, it has not even been written yet. I mean, because every time we think we have gotten to the top of what you do, you find another way to be creative and become even greater at something else.
I appreciate that. The incredible thing, Doc, is that so often when I'm given credit for something, I'm sitting here thinking, well, that actually wasn't my idea. I don't always say it, but I'm like, that wasn't actually my idea. And actually the people that implemented it, like for the Hope Center, Carrie Casey, Nicole Waters, who helped name the Hope Center with a pastor from Middletown, Lisa Burton Oglesby, Kim Mark. There are these incredible people who make the Hope Center. It's very easy for me to stand up and say, hey, we're going to take this hotel, we're going to buy it and turn it into an amazing homeless shelter. But doing the actual work day to day, as you know, is really, really hard. Yeah, and we have great people doing it.
Right. Well, but it still speaks, because if it went wrong, we would blame you. So since it went well, we're going to give you credit. And you do center and it speaks to your administration, how you center yourself around competency. I'm a student of history, and Ronald Reagan was noted who wasn't one of the brightest candles, but he hung around the brightest people. Yeah. I'm not saying you're not one of the brightest candles, but he surrounded himself with the Rockefellers and those individuals and made his presidency so great.
But also, one thing I believe in strongly is it can't just be the Rockefellers. It's gotta also, you gotta bring somebody in who's experienced homelessness. One of the first things we did when we bought the hotel, even before between when we bought it and when we opened it, was 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, one thing we did is we sat down with a guy named Michael Kalmbach from the Creative Vision Factory in Wilmington. He takes individuals who are homeless or housing unstable, often have mental health and substance use disorders. He engages them in art and creative thinking. We brought them in and we just listened. We said, this is what we're thinking about doing. What do you want? You got to give more than just the rock. I think it's important to listen to really, really smart people, but sometimes you look for those smart people in non-traditional places. Make sure you're hearing from a diverse set of voices.
Yeah, and I think it's reflective in your government, how you run the Newcastle County. No way in the world you could please everybody, but for the most part, the heart of making sure that you're taking care of people, whether it be the Rockefellers or if it be the person who doesn't even have a home, is very key and very strong in your administration.
Here's what I believe. We have a right and really an obligation to be our whole selves, wherever we are, in whatever circumstances we are. And to me, that's just fundamental. As an employer, you don't get the best of what that person has to bring if they have to check half of it at the door on their way in, whether it's their gender, whether it's their race, whether it's their family structure, whether it's their physical ability, whatever it is, whoever you are, we need you to bring your whole self.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's what that was all about. And, you know, you can only check so much of yourself at the door each day before it affects who you are and how you are when you enter that door.
Right.
And so that's just a fundamental belief that I hold very strongly. And I think that's why I interact with people the same no matter where, because I'm not checking any part of myself at the door.
Right.
I am bringing my whole self.
Right.
And I want for other people to be able to do that as well. So one of the things that I believe people will hear consistently from people who worked with me is their feeling and their freedom to do that. And when you allow that in people, you just liberate their potential.
Right.
I mean, so to me, it's like, why wouldn't we invite people with all aspects and welcome all aspects of who they are? Like, I don't get why wouldn't we do that? And so, you know, interacting with people up and down an organization structure, I mean, it was nothing for me to sit down with Ed Woolard. He was the president. He was the CEO of the DuPont company, like 200,000 employees across the world. But that was no different than, well, you know, first couple of times you're a little bit nervous, but you get past that very quickly. And the custodian who at the end of the night was coming around and, you know, making sure that our workspace was good and clean and prepared for the next day.
Right.
To me, it's only natural to respect and value each of them.
Absolutely.
For who they are.
Right.
Well, actually, you mentioned it earlier, Howard University, actually, I went to for undergraduate. I studied communications there.
Okay.
And proud Bison as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful experience. But I then went to graduate school at University of Delaware and got my master's in public administration.
You know, it's interesting because now I'm gonna have to do a little confession. I knew that you went to Howard and you didn't say it, so I said maybe he don't want us to know.
Oh heck yeah! I want you to know.
Real
Oh, yes.
HBCUers,
Yes,
we like people to know.
Bison. Go Bison
So
all
I'm
the
with
way,
you
brother.
on that.
That's
I didn't
good.
go to Howard, but I certainly went to the real institution, which is Lincoln. But
Great school. That's how I caught that.
But that's excellent. So you did communications there.
Communications, modern, and economics also.
Okay,
yes.
understood. So then you went on to the University of Delaware. You got your master's degree there.
Well, actually, after I finished undergrad, I started my political career actually working in public office in the city of Chicago. I worked for Chicago alderman. This is back in the mid-'90s, where I was one of his legislative aides. And that got my passion for government going even further. And then after my few years in Chicago, I decided I need to get a master's, and University of Delaware actually has an excellent program in public administration. So I came back home to go to graduate school, and I was very, very fortunate at the time he works that I met my wife during my tenure there at school. So very fortunate across the board. Yeah.
Excellent. And what kind of work have you done, professional work?
Sure. It's pretty extensive.
Okay.
So starting out of graduate school, I worked for the Delaware State Housing Authority.
Okay.
As a senior assistant with the director, the cabinet secretary. After that, I served with DENREC, Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control, as their brownfields ombudsman, which was to help development communities looking at reposition commercial properties that were abandoned or underutilized. After that, I actually worked in the private sector for several years in real estate development and finance for affordable housing development firm.
Wow.
After that, I served with the Wilmington Housing Authority for 5 years as their director of capital development.
Okay.
I'm very proud of that work that
Were
I
you
did.
under Purnell at that time?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We did a heck of a lot of development at the time, repositioned a lot of public housing, did a lot to help bring in some mixed use in the area. So I'm very proud of my tenure there.
Yeah.
Then in 2011, I was appointed by Newcastle County as the Community Services General Manager. Community Services has oversight of community development housing programs, with inclusive affordable housing funding, Section 8 programs, also library administration. I oversaw the 15 county administered libraries here in Newcastle County. Also youth and senior services on behalf of Newcastle County. I was brought in by County Executive Paul Clark. Paul Clark then lost the election. I still served under Tom Gordon, where I was the Economic Development Director for Newcastle County under Tom Gordon. When Tom lost and Matt Meyer became county executive, I served under Matt for 5 years back in community services. So I've had a fortunate career in public service. And these are all appointed positions.
Right.
So I think it says something to my work ethic and the work that I do, that I worked there for almost 11 years under 3 different county executives. So I'm proud of that.
As I was saying a little earlier, so once I graduated from college, myself, best friend Logan Herring and his brother Shannon Watson, we came together and we co-founded a nonprofit organization for children. We did this giving leadership skills, mentoring. We took guys on college tours all around the country. So we were going to college tours and playing games out in Memphis, jumping in a 15-passenger van, taking a bunch of kids out Memphis, Cocoa Beach, Florida, Virginia. Like we were going all these different places. Never got paid a dime, just because we wanted to help our community. And we did that. But a major part of that is it informed me through programming. It informed me about how there's like other policy issues that we got to be talking about. And so that led me into working as a legislative aide for Representative Stephanie Bolden, Stephanie T. Bolden. Stephanie T. Bolden, don't forget the T, and Representative Helene Keeley. So I worked with them. I then I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to work for then Mayor, now Senator Cory Booker for 2 years. Changed my life working with someone like him. I was with him every day of my life for about 2 years. Didn't work well with wasn't too good for my relationship with my wife her fiance at the time. But I worked so closely with him, and he absolutely has changed my life. I'm thankful for him to show me like what a real leader does. It's not just about what someone does when the cameras are facing them, but when the cameras are turned in a different direction, what is the character? What are you doing? And he's that same man, no matter whether the cameras are in front of him or whether they're not. Learned a great deal from him. Worked in criminal justice reform space at Delaware Center for Justice, where we focused on issues around juvenile expungements. One of the big issues that we have was that, someone makes a stupid decision when they're 13, 14, as all of us have, and they are held to that when they're 23, 33, 43, 53. And so it doesn't allow people to move forward. And so we helped put some legislation together around helping for juveniles to be able to get expungements and adults to get pardons, helping people to re-enter back into society. All these different things are so important to help communities move forward. And that led into my work with the Urban League, where we groomed young people, helping to make sure people, like kind of solidifying people so they understood Delaware is a small state. We have 1 million people, but it was very interesting. I say this all the time. There's probably 20 people that it could impact the lives of 40% of the population. at the drop of a dime. And so how do you know who these people are? How do you get connected with these people? How do you learn how to advocate for your community? All these things are very critical and important. And so we try to put a lot of this forward, and we've had this program called the James H. Gilliam Senior Fellowship Program. So if someone wants to apply, they can apply to the program. It's a great program. The Gilliam Fellows is what we call them, and other things around policy that impacts the state. I am very fortunate. The governor, he did come in a random day. They asked if I would be interested in joining his cabinet, and I got to be honest, I'm incredibly thankful. There's a lot that, this is such an important job. And for the governor to have that much trust in me means the world to me.
Yes.
He didn't have to.
That's right.
The real stuff. He could have selected someone else about 2.5 years ago. But he gave me an opportunity of a lifetime. And I am forever thankful for it. And being able to work with him and learn how to better serve is so critical and important for me. So I'm people, as going back to what my father said, don't nobody owe you nothing.
That's right.
And so to work with Stephanie T. Bolden and Helene Keeley is amazing. Work with Senator Cory Booker, absolutely wonderful. I have the opportunity to lead our state as our state's housing director. It is a life changer for me. Like this is the best job I've ever had in my life.
All right.
And the
impact is much greater.
Indeed. You get to work with families around housing. Housing is the critical issue impacting our state right now. Our state is behind around 21,000 units as a state, and we have so many people moving into our state. There's a Forbes magazine article in September that shows that we are the top 10 importing states in the country. It's interesting, we are around some of our neighboring states are part of the top 10 exporting states. So people are leaving like Pennsylvania, people are leaving New York, people are leaving New Jersey, people are leaving Massachusetts, and are coming to states like Delaware. And so how do we make sure we have enough units for all, so that everyone's able to take advantage of this amazing state that we have here and be able to live quality lives with their families.
Hello, I'm Marcus Henry, and I'm running for Newcastle County Executive. I spent over 20 years working in state and local government, trying to bring the good programs and services you deserve here in Newcastle County. Please support my campaign. Please look us up at marcushenryde.com for further information. I look forward to meeting you all over next year, and I look forward to your support. Thank you.
Why now and why you?
It's really interesting. The why now, I think, has a lot to do with what we just talked about. The discreteness of the issue may be a little different. So the gender kind of differences in some ways, in terms of how people are brought into and unified, might have, depending on the circles you were in, maybe had more difference. Socioeconomic differences in and across our city. Cultural differences, depending on where you are in the city. The nature of some communities versus others in terms of what their current state is. From an infrastructure standpoint, how they look, some less or more in terms of beautification and the like. And very much the difference in value for and in treatment of the various parts of our city. So to me, that's the why now.
Right.
Because we have all that going on, all those differences that are not being brought together, and we don't have the unification, the unity among and across our city. Mm-hmm. We don't have the equitable resourcing in a way that lifts all aspects of our city. And we desperately need that. So the why now is, and we're seeing the effects of it in the statistics across the city, and where crime is higher in some places than others, where housing options are more varied and plentiful in some areas than others of our city. In public safety, beyond the major crimes, but just general public safety and responsiveness and things like that. So the why now is, if we continue along that path, it's not going to be a good place for us as a whole. Right. And I just really believe it is time for us to hit the pause button and relook at how we need to do things differently so that our city as a whole is more of a collective community that values the differences, cultural, socioeconomic, all of those, and that cares universally about one another in a way that we are willing to support here for what it needs, and there for what it needs differently, and in this other community for what's important to them. And that means not to diminish any aspect of our city, but to work at really raising and lifting all. Right. So to me, that's the why now, is that if we don't do something different, we're not going to get any different result. Right.
Real quick, I heard and then I saw that you announced that you're running for governor for the great state of Delaware. What led you to that?
So first of all, let me say you mentioned about my marriage, my wife. I talked to county employees on the first day of work, and one question I asked them is, you're coming into the county, you have a boss who has a boss who eventually leads to me. Who's my boss? And the answer is the people. Yeah. But shortly after I get married, when I said, who's my boss? Somebody said, your wife. Yeah. And I said, that's right.
And you got that
right. Listen, I grew up here. I had an opportunity, all the opportunities in the world to go away to college, ended up working in Kenya, learned Swahili, starting a small business in Kenya, ended up in Iraq as a diplomat for a year, embedded with the US Army during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Then I came back home. And one thing you see when you travel around to different places is opportunities, the tremendous opportunities and potential that this little small state has. Delaware can get things done. They can get things done with urgency. That's what we've shown in our 7 years thus far as county executives. Things like the Hope Center, things like our partnership with Code Differently, things like our partnership with Donors Choose that got grants to over 1,300 teachers across the state of Delaware. I think when you look at the problems we're facing now, by some measures, our education system here, our schools, our K-12 schools, are ranked among the 10 worst states in the country, right? There are measures that are totally unacceptable for a place like Delaware with all the assets we have. I'm excited to lead us forward with urgency to address many of those problems. So that's why I announced my candidacy to be governor when Governor Carney's done next year.
What really led you to start saying, you know what, I think I want to run for an elected office?
Thank you for that question. Obviously, I've had a passion for working in government for 20 plus years. But I think over the last several years, I'm like, as I get older, I'm 53, I made a decision, to be honest with you, during COVID. I got sick like a lot of other folks. And I'm like, I want to make some changes in my life. And I've wanted new direction. And working at the pleasure of 3 county executives, which I appreciated, I wanted the opportunity to run the government. With my experience and background with county government, I thought I could be very effective in doing that. And so I put that forth a year and a half ago now in terms of announcing for office and just getting out there the last year and a half, talking to so many people, hearing their issues or concerns, both with the county, but government in general. And what can I do potentially if I win this office to help effectuate change, to help address their concerns. And I think I'm well suited to do that.
My policy, because running for Congress is very much about policy and legislation. What are your priorities? What matters the most to you? And for me, my policy comes from my community. And so I want to talk about and put policy forward around housing. I think housing is going to be the most critical issue. We need our federal government to step up off the sidelines and get into housing, providing more funds available to states to build more units. Because what's happening right now is our states do not have the mass of money and resources to fill the need. There's no way it could happen. Now I'm seeing it because I'm in it. There's no way our states alone can provide the funding for the housing needs of each state. Our nation, as I said earlier, our state's behind around 21,000 units. Our nation is behind around 4 to 6 million units.
Wow.
4 to 6 million units. And so what's happening is we do not, because we don't have many of these units in all the other places. So if you're struggling in New York or Long Island and trying to find space and you can't find one, you end up going to a place where your dollar can stretch a little longer. So what happens? You move to Delaware.
That's right.
And so that's why we get such this influx, because we're not talking, it's not just our state, it's our nation.
Right.
So we need to make sure there's more units in New York, just as much as there are more units in Delaware. So it's just not a flea of people from New Jersey and New York just saying, you know what? And there's no shade for that because my wife's a New Yorker. My in-laws moved down here from New York. I love New Yorkers or whatever, and if you're from Jersey, Pennsylvania. But we need to make sure everyone's whole. We cannot be the most wealthiest country to ever be, our globe's ever seen, and not be able to provide housing for the people in our
affordable housing.
Affordable housing, just quality housing. Second is we need to focus on healthcare. Healthcare is such a critical issue within our community and our nation as a whole. We are per capita, we spend more money than any other nation when it comes to housing. For healthcare. But yet people are going broke every year because they cannot keep up with healthcare related costs. 60% of all the people that file for bankruptcy do it because of healthcare related costs. 60%.
Wow.
So it's one of those things where we have to find more ways to get quality healthcare, and then we have to become better at the preventative care measures. Because we're not providing such preventative care, you have people who are going into situations where if they have preventive care, they wouldn't be in such bad stages of life. I'll give an example. In our state, heart disease is the #1 killer.
Right.
Oftentimes people get confused. I said this recently at a conference. Oftentimes people will say, women, they'll say, cancer, in particular breast cancer for women is the #1, is a large cause of death. But I would tell people, the stats show a woman will die from breast cancer is like 1 in 30. A woman dying of heart disease is 1 in 3.
Oh, wow.
So these are major issues. In Delaware, heart disease is the biggest killer for citizens of our state. So what can we do? There's more things that can be done at the earlier onset when it comes to issues around heart disease, around preventative care, that we can be focusing in on so we don't lose lives as much as we do when it comes to heart disease. And third, I think a major issue for our state is we have to very much focus on economic development. We need to make sure people are properly trained to get quality of jobs in our state. We have, with such an influx of higher costs when it comes to healthcare, housing, and just academics or education for that matter, the wages are not keeping up. And so what's happening is people are falling behind. And so people aren't able to provide that quality food on the table. Instead, they have to work 2 to 3 different jobs. And then the next question that occurs is someone will say, well, who's this kid and where's their parent? What's their parent doing? In many cases, their parents working 2 or 3 jobs, trying to make ends meet.
Excellent, yes.
So you can't have it both ways. The average daycare worker in our state makes $11 per hour. We have to find a way to make sure people are properly trained so that they're able to make higher wages. And then also having a better trained workforce allows for better, more employers to come because you have a better trained workforce. And being able to hire people of the state. So these are some things that are most important as we move ahead.
News all across the nation. Wilmington's latest headlines. Advocating for change in the community with Dr. C.T. Curry, Kobe Owens, and Shanae Darby. Tune in to The Source every Sunday at 5 p.m.
And we're back. What a great and phenomenal interview. I want to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Surratt for coming and sharing. What we're trying to do is to make sure you get all the information. Ms. Potter has been certainly a true servant in this community and have done great work, and she stands on her own 2 feet. What we're trying to do is to make sure you get all the information. It's more important that you get the information and you make a sound decision than for you to hear rumors and things of that nature. Today I'll share with you Marcus Henry. I come to you thoroughly convinced and convicted that we have a true public servant who wants to support and do what is right by all mankind. Today, I'm very grateful because to see a brother who's really done some great things in his life and have poured back into the community that upon which he came from is very powerful. We talk about in our seminars about what the impact people can have on their community. Today, we get an opportunity to see it in living color. For Matt Myers to be able to come today and be a part of this show was very much an honor as far as I'm concerned. He's been serving as our county exec for the past 7 years. Now he's seeking to become the governor for the state of Delaware. I hope and trust you really give him a strong look. I hope you look at this interview over and over again. I hope and trust that today was a good show for you, and I pray that the Lord will continue to bless you. Until the next time we get together, may the Lord God bless you real good.
Thank you for watching this episode of Coffee with Curry. Tune in next week, Sunday at 11 a.m.